The words hit like a slap across the quiet lobby. Count that cash faster. Sweetheart. Derek Harlan's voice boomed, rattling the glass doors of the Oak Ridge Credit Union on Route 47 just outside Indianapolis. Every head in the branch snapped toward the counter. Customers froze mid-conversation. The two new tellers, barely 3 months out of training, went rigid, their hands hovering over neat stacks of 20s as if the bills might explode. I didn't flinch. I finished sliding the last bundle into the drawer with deliberate calm, the kind you learn after years of swallowing your pride. Then I turned to face him. Derek stood there in his cheap navy tie, chest puffed, the same smug tilt to his jaw that had become his signature since he transferred in from the downtown branch 6 months earlier. I quit. The smirk faltered for half a second. Then he laughed, that thick, wheezing sound that bounced off the marble floors and made the overhead fluorescence seem harsher. You can't quit. It's payday. We're slammed. I reached into my canvas tote, pulled out the folded legal packet, and walked it over to Lisa, the assistant manager, who had been silently mouthing, "Oh my God," since the yelling started. This branch is closed. Effective immediately. For structural renovation. The laughter died in his throat. The color drained from his face as Lisa took the document with trembling fingers. The wall clock above the entrance ticked loudly in the sudden silence. Derek snatched the paper, scanning it like it was written in code. His lips moved silently while reading. I watched him process the name at the bottom. Willow Creek Properties, LLC. Owner Representative, Ava Reynolds. You're just a teller, he muttered, voice cracking. I said evenly. The building doesn't belong to the credit union. They lease it, and the lease is mine. He blinked, then tried to rally, already reaching for his phone. This is some kind of prank. I'll call regional right now. You should, I replied. They've been expecting it. The truth settled over the lobby like a heavy blanket. Customers shifted uncomfortably. One older man in a faded Cardinals cap cleared his throat, but said nothing. Derek's hand hovered over his phone, but he didn't dial yet. He just stared at me, searching for the joke that wasn't coming. I'd given him 3 clear chances. The first time he mocked a pregnant teller for frequent bathroom breaks, calling her high maintenance loud enough for everyone to hear. The second, he shut off the AC during a brutal August heat wave and told us all to toughen up or find another job. The third was personal. He docked my hours by 20 minutes after I stayed late to fix an overage he had caused himself. That was the day I finalized the emergency closure notice.
Now,
standing in the sudden quiet, I felt the weight of 2 years of endurance lift slightly. I removed my teller badge and slid it across the counter to Lisa. You might want to clear your desk, Derek. The contractors arrive in 10 minutes. He scoffed, but his voice lacked conviction. You think I'm scared of your little stunt? Outside, 3 white utility vans pulled up across the street. No logos. Just men in hard hats stepping out with clipboards and tool bags. I gave them a subtle nod through the glass. The lead contractor taped a large white sign to the front door, Interior Structural Inspection. Branch closed until further notice. The ATM lights flickered and died. I'd rerouted the power supply earlier that morning. Derek shoved past the counter, trying to reach the sign. But the lead contractor stepped smoothly into his path, clipboard raised like a shield of authority. That's when the real panic began to creep in. Derek's face twisted as he realized the door wouldn't budge when he tried to yank the sign down. The magnetic locks had already engaged on my signal. This isn't legal, he snapped, voice rising. But his eyes betrayed him. Calculation, not certainty. The truth was buried deep in the lease he had never bothered to read. For years ago, during a corporate restructuring wave that gutted experienced staff and outsourced core operations, I saw the writing on the wall. While executives shuffled titles like playing cards, I formed Willow Creek Properties, LLC, through a quiet trust. I bought the building outright using savings, inheritance from my father's modest estate, and careful investments. The credit union saw it as just another annual lease payment clearing automatically. No one asked questions when the rent posted on time. I started as a teller here right after college, working my way up quietly. But when Derek arrived with his Bluetooth headset, finger snapping, and delegate and dominate speeches that sounded like bad motivational posters, I knew the fragile balance would shatter. He treated the branch like his personal fiefdom, locker room jokes, public humiliations, favoritism for those who laughed at his jabs. I documented everything, not out of anger at first, but insurance. The IT platform changes without notice. The ignored safety audit requests. The outdated fire suppression tests. The way he called veteran staff dead weight in meetings. Every incident went into a private archive on my mirrored server, timestamps, emails, witness statements I gathered discreetly. The lease footnote I highlighted years earlier became my quiet weapon. Landlord reserves the right to initiate emergency closure for required structural inspection. Determination of necessity lies solely with the landlord or designated agent. I was both. As Derek paced the lobby, barking orders at frozen tellers, the terminals began blinking offline one by one. The network had shifted to my private mirror system. Card readers disabled. Cameras rerouted to my encrypted cloud, capturing every frantic moment, including his past tirades archived for months. He didn't know the panic button under my old station now pinged only my private relay. The breaker room had been rekeyed months ago during a maintenance request he signed off without reading. The Faraday shielding woven into the ceiling panels, listed innocently as signal-boosting insulation, now blocked cell signals completely. The contractors entered smoothly once the lead verified the permit. They moved with practiced efficiency, taping off areas, noting measurements, looking every bit the official inspection team they portrayed. Ex-municipal inspectors I'd handpicked. Theater. Yes, but perfectly legal theater backed by Stamp City permits. Derek tried the landline. Dead. His cell showed no bars. He circled the lobby like a trapped animal, sweat beading on his forehead despite the now silent HVAC. The ceiling fans had whirred to a stop minutes earlier. The faint hum of electricity throughout the building, the heartbeat of the branch, had vanished. Customers outside pressed against the glass, confused. A teacher on lunch break held up payroll checks. A mechanic in grease-stained coveralls shouted about bounce checks. Derek plastered a handwritten, temporary closure note on the inside glass. But it fooled no one. The frozen terminal screens displayed the same blue message, branch suspended for structural inspection. He leaned over a teller's shoulder, stabbing at keys. Nothing. The system was in deliberate maintenance lockdown. No transactions. No data flow. They weren't on the corporate grid anymore. They were on mine. From across the street, leaning against one of the vans with an iced coffee in hand, I watched the chaos unfold. His frantic loops, the vein pulsing in his neck, the dawning realization that the vault wasn't the heart of this place. The lease was, and I controlled it. By early afternoon, the lobby felt like a tomb. The UPS backups sighed once and surrendered. Complete darkness swallowed the interior except for emergency lighting strips that cast long, eerie shadows. Derek's shouting grew hoarser, echoing off silent walls. He clapped at cameras, snapped fingers at tellers. But the staff stood motionless, reading the same frozen message on their screens. The contractor leader handed him a stamped copy of the permit, my name clearly listed as authorized owner representative. Derek tried shouldering past again, but the man blocked him effortlessly. Authorized work, I had told him earlier. Calm and precise. Section 4.2 of City Code. The security doors buzzed faintly, then powered down permanently. Keycards failed. Emergency exits locked magnetically. Derek pressed his palm flat against the glass, breathing heavily. "That's not your system," he muttered. "It is now." Inside. The break room microwave clock blinked 888 endlessly. His office screen showed only "server not found." Phones hissed static. Wi-Fi vanished. The Faraday shielding did its job perfectly, walls swallowing signals he once took for granted. The lunch crowd swelled outside. 10. Then 20 people peering in. Questions flew. Why is the ATM dead? Is the vault secure? My direct deposit says pending. A woman waved 3 checks. Derek shouted through the glass. Temporary technical issue. We'll reopen soon. No one believed him. Panic rippled through the crowd. He retreated inside, nearly knocking over a potted plant. Through the tinted windows, I saw him jab at terminals, wave arms wildly, lean over shoulders barking commands. But the tellers couldn't respond. The system had isolated itself purposefully under Clause 5.3, tenant operations subject to landlord infrastructure integrity checks. He grabbed the dry erase marker and scrawled, "Branch temp closed," on the inside glass. It changed nothing. The fear crept into his posture, the twitch at his temple, the way his shoulders slumped when he thought no one watched. At exactly 1:37 p.m., my phone rang. Regional office. I let it ring twice before answering. "This is Ava." The voice on the other end, Mark from compliance, sounded tense. "What's happening at Oak Ridge?" I forwarded the lease file immediately. "Check your email." A long pause followed the ding of incoming mail. Pages flipping. "You bought the building 4 years ago?" Through Willow Creek Properties. Fully compliant. Public record. Shutdown prescheduled per municipal inspection under sections 5.3 and 5.7. Permits attached. He didn't bluster. Regional executives don't. They calculate lost transactions, customer complaints, PR nightmare, bonus implications. Finally, "Can you restore service?" "That depends," I said evenly. "Are we speaking off record?" He agreed quickly. Smart move. I listed documented failures, safety lapses, managerial misconduct, ignored audits. If formal, everything goes through legal. I've kept records. "No," he said fast. "Keep it informal. Then yes, I can restore it. But review Clause 8.4 first." Silence again as he read the appendix. Tenant misconduct or negligence triggers landlord reevaluation rights. Remedy via direct negotiation. The terms were non-negotiable. Full management reassessment. Immediate removal of current branch manager. Direct reporting channel for staff concerns. My systems reinstated with visibility. Lease renewed under new compliance standards. 3 minutes after I sent the email, the reply came. Understood. Drafting termination now. No signature. No rebuttal. Just the quiet surrender of a career ending through keystrokes. Inside the branch, Derek emerged from his office clutching a cardboard box. His shirt was untucked, face blotchy. He shouted into a dead phone, voice cracking. The box sagged, a cheap "Excellence in Onboarding" plaque poking out alongside a wilting desk plant. The sidewalk had cleared somewhat. Customers gave up after repeated apologies through the glass. Contractors began prep work, tools laid out, permits displayed prominently. I watched from the contractor van as Derek pushed through the doors clutching his box like a lifeline. He tossed it into his sunbaked sedan, slammed the door, and sat there motionless for a long minute. Engine off. No one stopped him. The silence spoke volumes. One contractor asked, "Ready for teardown prep?" "Not yet," I said. "Give it 15." Drills started humming soon after. Drywall panels unscrewed. Ceiling tiles thudded softly. The glass partition he once stood behind like a general disappeared in minutes. His corner office was gutted. The employee of the quarter wall, with his photo framed twice, came down first. I didn't gloat. This wasn't personal revenge. It was correction. The systems he thought he commanded were rented illusions. The real control had always been the lease. The infrastructure. The quiet paperwork he dismissed. 1 week later, I walked back through the front doors. Fresh glass. No smudges. The air carried new paint and purpose. The layout opened up. Gone were cramped cubicles and his elevated perch. Welcoming. Functional.
No phone for ego.
The new manager, a steady-eyed woman named Jordan, shook my hand firmly. Morning. MS. Reynolds. Morning. I placed my palm on the new biometric reader. Soft chime. Green light. Terminals booted one by one. Screens lit up. Systems realigned. The branch sighed back to life. Payroll processed. Customers returned, curious but relieved. Tellers smiled genuinely again. One leaned over and whispered, "Think he'll ever come back?" I smiled faintly. He had his payday. The vault hummed steadily behind reinforced steel. Unchanged. It had never been the weak point. The failure was always human, the arrogance that assumed titles equaled ownership. That bullying built loyalty. That no one would trace the lease back to the quiet teller who smiled through the condescension. I stood in the hallway breathing in the restored calm. Transactions processed smoothly. Printers hummed. Lives moved forward under new rules, my rules, but fairer ones. Behind the scenes, Regional had complied fully. Derek's termination processed quietly. The branch now reported concerns directly upward. Systems restored with my visibility layer intact. Lease renewed with stricter compliance clauses. The moral lingered long after the lights came back on. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in the paperwork no one reads. The preparations made in silence. The patience to wait for the right moment. Derek thought he controlled the stage because he barked the loudest. He never realized the stage itself belonged to someone else. What would you have done in my place? Endured quietly forever. Or flipped the switch when the abuses went too far. The branch thrived after that day. Staff morale higher. Operations smoother. But the ghost of his final desperate shouts still echoed faintly in memory whenever someone raised their voice too sharply at the counter. Power shifts quietly sometimes. And when it does, the ones who never saw it coming are left staring at locked doors, wondering how the teller they dismissed became the one holding all the keys. The building remembered. And now, so did everyone inside.